There is a silent restlessness that follows us when the heart senses something greater than ordinary experiences. Sometimes this unrest shows up as seemingly casual encounters, inexplicable connections, or a strange feeling of familiarity with someone we barely know. Amid the crowds, there is a presence that resonates in harmony with our soul, and we don't always notice it. Destiny rarely shouts, it whispers. And when it comes to the person who mirrors our deepest essence, those whispers become revealing signs. This video will guide you on a journey where Carl Jung's analytical psychology illuminates the invisible paths of the soul. The signs are all around you, and perhaps already by your side. Pay attention, for recognizing what is real begins in the unseen. If you believe that everything happens for a reason, comment, "I trust in the timing of the soul." From Carl Jung's perspective, the encounters that truly transform us do not occur by chance. For Jung, every meaningful relationship reveals hidden aspects of ourselves, especially those that awaken intense emotions, deep bonds, and an inexplicable sense of familiarity. When we speak of the presence of a possible soulmate, we are approaching Jung's concept of projection, a psychic mechanism by which we project our own unconscious qualities, both shadowed and luminous, onto another person. These encounters often confront us with the shadow, the hidden side of our personality. The person we feel is special frequently embodies exactly what we need to integrate on our individuation journey, the process of becoming who we really are. They challenge us, attract us, provoke us, and above all, reveal us. Jung would say that this kind of connection points toward integrating anima and animus, the archetypes representing the unconscious feminine and masculine aspects in each of us. Finding this figure can represent a psychic drive toward inner unification. Their presence awakens the search for wholeness and leads us, often without our knowing, to our own center. It's not just about romance, but about a soul mirror that pushes us to transcend ourselves. The person we feel as destined is not the one who completes us, but the one who reveals who we truly are. Thus, the signs pointing to their presence do not come from logic, but from the soul, and they are unmistakable when we are willing to look deeply. There are encounters that defy explanation by logic, shared experience, or visible affinities. They breach the boundaries of time, reason, and even doubt. When Jung speaks of synchronicity and the collective unconscious, he refers to that profound dimension where souls meet, not because they choose to, but because they recognize one another. The sensation of already knowing someone you've just met, of feeling at home in a stranger's gaze, is a phenomenon that, from the standpoint of analytical psychology, touches the archetypal level of the psyche. The idea that souls reunite is ancient and resonates across various spiritual and mythological traditions. In Jungian thought, such a reunion can be understood as a powerful activation of shared unconscious contents, which emerge as instant attraction, deep familiarity, and a kind of emotional memory without a clear origin. What we feel in this kind of connection is the echo of something that goes beyond the surface of personality and anchors itself in the deepest layers of being. Jung understood the self as the archetype of wholeness, the organizing center of the psyche that seeks completeness. When someone appears in our life and awakens a feeling of inexplicable alignment or fullness, it may indicate that this person is unconsciously reflecting parts of us that the self wishes to integrate. This sense of immediate recognition is not an emotional accident, but an inner calling. It's not destiny in the passive romantic sense, but the soul's summons to move toward its own truth. This recognition often comes with an emotional intensity disproportionate to the time spent together. The presence of that person triggers memories, fears, joys, and sensations that seem not to belong to that moment, but to something that existed long ago. It's as if something very ancient is being reactivated. Jung believed this occurs when archetypal contents are touched, and few experiences are as archetypal as the encounter with the soulmate figure. Contrary to common belief, Jung did not view this kind of meeting as a fairy tale. He knew that profound recognition brings both beauty and challenge. The reunion of souls stirs dormant inner structures and emotions that require maturity to integrate. What seems simple at the start soon reveals itself to be a transformative process, and that is one of the clearest signs that it is not an ordinary connection. Many people feel an inexplicable fear in the face of such recognition. Sometimes, after an exchange of glances or a deep conversation, there is an urge to pull away, as if something dangerous is approaching. But in reality, the unconscious is reacting to the power of that encounter. Jung teaches us that the more significant the person we meet, the more shadow they can activate, and this can be unsettling. That is why the sense of immediate recognition should not be interpreted merely as romance or idealization. It is, above all, a symbolic call, an invitation to look within and notice what is being awakened. Who is this person who affects you so deeply? What are they showing you that you could not see before? The answer is never only in the other. It lies, above all, in yourself. From the Jungian standpoint, the soulmate is a symbolic mirror, and that mirror does not show only what is beautiful or desired. It shows what needs to be healed, acknowledged, and integrated. The feeling of familiarity may herald a journey of self-knowledge, made possible only because that person entered your life. And most impressively, often they have been there all along, silently present, waiting for you to be ready to see them. When you sense that you've known someone forever, even though you have just met, perhaps your soul is recognizing the integration opportunity that their presence offers. And if that person is already part of your circle, maybe the signs are only waiting to be seen with soul eyes, not routine eyes. At that level, reunion does not depend on chronological time, but on the time of consciousness. When we think of soul encounters, we often associate completeness with harmony, peace, and seamless connection. However, in light of Carl Jung's analytical psychology, that image is incomplete. The deepest bonds, especially those we feel as destined or transformative, not only comfort us but also confront us. The soulmate, far from being an idealized refuge, is often the most discomforting mirror of what has yet to be recognized within us, the shadow. Jung defined the shadow as the set of repressed, denied, or undeveloped aspects of the psyche. It is not necessarily negative or evil, but represents everything that, for various reasons, was pushed out of consciousness. When someone to whom we feel deeply connected enters our life, they often awaken that shadow intensely. The attraction, fascination, and even conflicts that arise in such a relationship are expressions of this psychic mechanism at work. That is why the soulmate often seems to irritate, provoke, or make us vulnerable. Unwittingly, they embody exactly what we avoid in ourselves. It could be a behavior, an emotion, a worldview, or even an old wound. And the more significant that person's presence, the greater the impact they will have on our psychic system. It is not uncommon for this kind of relationship to begin with enchantment and quickly evolve into tension because the unconscious is being stirred at its depths. This challenging dynamic does not mean the bond is toxic or wrong. On the contrary, it can be precisely the signal that there is real potential for transformation. From this perspective, the soulmate does not appear to complete us romantically, but to propel us towards psychic growth. The discomfort they provoke is often the pain of a new consciousness being born. Jung saw relationships as fertile ground for the individuation process, the inner journey toward wholeness, and that journey inevitably involves confronting the shadow. When the person who attracts us also challenges us, we have a unique opportunity to face what we normally hide from ourselves. The anger we feel may be our own anger we never learned to name. The jealousy that arises may point to deep insecurities we avoided acknowledging. The admiration may conceal a power we have not dared to live. From this point of view, the other ceases to be merely a partner and becomes a symbolic mirror. He or she returns to us what we projected, be it our idealized desires or our repressed flaws. And when we recognize this, we can begin the integration process. That is, instead of blaming the other for everything we feel, we start to understand what each emotion is trying to tell us about ourselves. Thus, the soulmate is not just the one who understands us, but the one who forces us, directly or indirectly, to confront our own abysses. This is not something done consciously. It is the effect that their presence has on our inner world. Sometimes they awaken memories we did not want to revisit, or provoke reactions we did not know we were capable of. This kind of bond is at once magical and dangerous. Dangerous in the sense that it threatens the ego structures we strive to preserve, but it is in this upheaval that the potential for healing resides. When we allow the bond to reveal the shadow without defending ourselves automatically, we open space for true transformation. We begin to see the other not as a threat, but as a portal. Discomfort becomes opportunity, pain becomes teacher, and the bond, even if challenging, becomes sacred. By activating the shadow, the soulmate teaches us that love is not only about what the other can give us, but about what they awaken in us so that we can become who we really are. That is why these encounters have such profound power. They leave us untouched. They burn away what is false, peel back layers of defense and reveal the essence. And this, although painful, is an act of self-love by the soul. In the realm of analytical psychology, the unconscious is not seen as a repository of repressed contents, but as a living, creative, deeply symbolic instance. It speaks to us all the time, although we do not always know how to listen. And when it comes to encounters with archetypal value, such as that of a possible soulmate, the unconscious manifests with even greater force and subtlety. It is in this setting that revealing dreams, impressive synchronicities and hunches arise, persisting even when logic contradicts them. Carl Jung was one of the great thinkers to explore dreams as a bridge between unconscious and conscious. For him, dreams bring coded messages from the soul and, when interpreted with symbolic seriousness, reveal essential contents for individuation. When a striking figure repeatedly appears in dreams, especially with intense emotional charge, that image deserves attention. It may represent an archetype, a projection of anima or animus, or even a symbolic reflection of someone real who is approaching or already present in our life. The repetition of these dream images indicates that something within us is trying to emerge, a calling, a warning, or a memory of something forgotten but still recognized by the soul. In this context, a dream is an internal preparation for external recognition. Many people report dreaming of someone long before meeting them physically, or recurring dreams while that person was already part of their circle. Such dreams should not be dismissed as coincidence or fantasy. On the contrary, they are forms in which the unconscious communicates that a symbolic connection is being activated, something beyond immediate understanding. Jung argued that ignoring dream content is like rejecting advice from the unconscious, a part that often knows more than the ego. Another phenomenon deeply linked to soul encounters is synchronicity. Jung coined this term to describe events that, although lacking causal connection, possess deep symbolic meaning for those who experience them. When two people meet under unlikely circumstances, when paths cross repeatedly, or when external messages, symbols, or signs coincide with internal thoughts or emotions, we face synchronicity. These experiences, especially when recurring around a certain person, should not be ignored. Synchronicity reveals that the inner world and the outer world are connected by a symbolic bond. When we feel it was meant to be, or that something greater is leading the encounter, we are sensing that invisible thread linking events to the psyche's contents. Meeting someone in unexpected places, thinking of a person who then appears, or noticing patterns of numbers and specific symbols constantly around a striking presence are signs of the unconscious manifesting through objective reality. Hunches also belong to this language of the soul. They are subtle perceptions not based on rational data, but on an intuitive knowing that emerges from the unconscious, feeling that something is about to happen, sensing a shift in the air when a certain person approaches, or experiencing an inexplicable certainty that that person has an important role in your life, are ways the unconscious communicates with the conscious. These signs, though often discredited by the rational mind, gain strength and validity as we observe how they repeat and resonate deeply in our emotional field. Jung did not view these manifestations as magic or superstition, but as legitimate expressions of the psychic dynamic between conscious and unconscious. In his view, when we pay attention to dreams, synchronicities, and hunches, we live more aligned with the totality of being. And in this expanded state of perception, we are able to recognize signs we once ignored, signs that point to someone who was already by our side, waiting only for our consciousness to be ready to truly see them. This kind of inner listening is not taught through logic but through experience. The more we quiet the external noise and turn our attention inward, the more apparent these signs become. And most impressively, often the person we consider special also feels those same inklings, even if they can't explain them. The unconscious of two connected souls communicates silently, exchanging messages beyond linear time, beyond physical space, but within the symbolic field where everything is possible. Therefore, when you notice these small but insistent signs, do not dismiss them. Look at them as the soul does, with reverence, attention, and courage. They may be messengers of something already present, waiting only to be recognized. In Carl Jung's analytical psychology, the essential goal of human development is individuation, the process of becoming what one truly is, integrating the various aspects of the psyche, and achieving inner wholeness. This path is not solitary, although it is profoundly personal. Paradoxically, many of the most significant experiences that lead us to our center occur in the presence of another. And among all possible relationships, there is one that exerts unparalleled impact: the encounter with the symbolic figure of the soulmate. In this context, the soulmate is not an idealized half, but a catalyst. They are someone whose presence activates deep archetypes, projects reflections of our shadow, and above all forces us to abandon the illusions the ego created for protection. It is not an encounter for comfort, but for transformation. This person does not come to complete who we are, but to reveal everything we are not yet, but need to become. Jung understood that the other functions as a soul mirror, reflecting what is hidden and needs to emerge, so that the journey toward the self, the archetype of wholeness, can continue. In this process, the relationship with the soulmate becomes a true psychic laboratory. The fascination we feel for this person is not merely emotional or sexual. It is a symbolic call to integration. Through the relationship, the unconscious opens and unveils layers we would scarcely have the courage to explore alone. Old fears, hidden traumas, repressed desires, forgotten potentials, all emerge in this relational field, and it is precisely this movement that propels us toward our own center. The soulmate's presence can make us feel more vulnerable than ever before, and that vulnerability is necessary, because without it, there is no real transformation. It is in the other that we project what we cannot recognize in ourselves, and when this projection is dismantled by coexistence or conflict, we are forced to look within. Disappointment, in this case, is not the end of the relationship, but the beginning of self-knowledge. The idealized image falls away, and in its place arises the opportunity to love more truly, both the other and ourselves. The other reveals to us what remains to be integrated. When we love someone deeply, we begin to see ourselves in a new light. We start to perceive our patterns, wounds, and strengths more clearly. Intimate coexistence compels the soul to take a stand, to choose between staying trapped in ego masks or opening to the inner wholeness pulsing within. With each challenge lived alongside this person, we become more conscious and therefore closer to the self. Jung also addressed the importance of balancing psychic opposites, masculine and feminine, conscious and unconscious, reason and intuition. By activating these polarities within us, the soulmate brings us into contact with the creative tension necessary for individuation. This tension is not negative, it is the engine of transformation. When two people share this symbolic field, there is a natural impulse for mutual growth. They challenge each other, mirror each other, confront each other, and in the deepest moments heal each other. However, it is essential to understand that this process does not depend on the conventional duration or success of the relationship. A soulmate may appear in our life for a brief period and still provoke an irreversible change. The value of that encounter lies in its symbolic potency, not in the social expectations we project onto it. Some of these relationships push our limits, shatter our beliefs about love, and confront us with existential choices. And despite all the pain, they transform us from the inside out. By recognizing the other as a guide rather than a destination, the soul comes to understand the true purpose of that connection. What we feel for the soulmate is often a reflection of what we are capable of feeling for ourselves if we open to the inner journey. It is as if their presence gradually teaches us to love our own essence, with all its lights and shadows. Individuation, therefore, is neither solitary nor linear. It is shaped by encounters that shake us and reveal us. And among these encounters, there is one that carries a unique symbolic power, the one in which the soul sees another soul and in that reflection awakens. That is why the soulmate is one of the deepest expressions of the journey toward the self. Not because they lead us to another, but because they bring us with firmness and compassion back to ourselves. Throughout this journey, we have seen that true connection between souls goes far beyond idealized romance. The one we feel is deeply familiar, transformative, and sometimes unsettling may be precisely the mirror the psyche needed to continue its evolution. Through the Jungian lens, we understand that the soulmate is not someone who completes us, but someone who reveals us. It is an encounter that activates the shadow, awakens symbols of the unconscious, and propels the individuation process. These signs, the immediate recognition, emotional challenges, Synchronicities, dreams, and deep inner transformation are invitations from the soul to awaken. If that person is already in your life, perhaps the signs are already there, waiting only for you to see them more deeply. Listen to your unconscious, observe the symbols, and above all, allow yourself to feel with presence and courage. If this content resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. And don't leave without watching the video appearing on the screen now. It will further expand your perception of the inner journey. Your path to self-knowledge may have begun with an encounter, and perhaps that encounter is already happening.